And hello, we are live. Again, I'm David Boles, and this is Boles.tv. B-O-L-E-S, period, T, and a V. Well, it's lovely to be with you today. I hope you're doing well. Had a big, active day yesterday, and today will be just as interesting and just as foreboding, I'm sure. Lots of interesting topics to take a look at and handle and explore today. Hair's looking pretty good. Didn't look so great earlier, but now it's looking okay. And just for the record, we've talked about this. I'm not actually that bald right here. See right here? It's usually not that bad. It's the bright lights, studio lights. The camera puts on 10 pounds. How many cameras are on him? And removes all of your hair. It's a cruel mistress, I tell you. This is my birthday shirt from last Thursday's show, gifted to me by the beautiful and talented Jana Marie Sweetheart. Brain Dead is the brand, and it's fuzzy. Love it. My color green, teal, whatever color that is. Lots of fun. So we are here live with you, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. And on Saturdays and Sundays, Jana is here to talk to you about American Sign Language, hardcore ASL, disability. You can ask her questions, you can be involved. It's really quite a wonderful experience. So we start off today with a little bit of interesting news. Sort of big news, really. If you're in the New York City area, LaGuardia, excuse me, big hot box, 9 a.m. by my neighbor. New York City's LaGuardia Airport has a terrible reputation for the past 30 years as being the most awful and ugly airport terminal in the United States of America. If you want to fly, don't fly out of LaGuardia. Or JFK for that matter. They're both kind of ugly. Fly out of Newark. People seem to like Newark in the area. But now, LaGuardia has a whole new terminal, Terminal B. And is bright and airy, and as the PR said, it no longer rains inside the terminal. It's not dark and dank and moldy. The ceilings are all high. You can look out the windows. And this is their new website for Terminal B. LaGuardia, the airport. Preparing for departure. 95% of the brand new Terminal B is now terminally open. You're invited to take a look around and learn more about our brand and the state-of-the-art facility. If we click on play video, what happens? Does something play? I hope it's not on YouTube or we're gonna be in trouble. Or turn the sound off just so we can be safe. And we'll take this quick little tour of the new LaGuardia. Well, it does look very nice, very new, very shiny. Trees, sunshine, check-in terminals. The high ceilings are very nice. I love the artwork. Very beautiful. The escalators, the elevators, they're all there for you to go up and to go down. Lots of lines. Standing in line. That's the airport experience. Or at least there's a lot of space to move around. I like that a lot. Obviously not quite open yet because there are no people pushing. Oh, now there are people pushing. Pushing and pulling. Nice places to eat, a bookstore, some kind of waterfall, the light show. Fun, I like that. Not all shops and restaurants are open because of COVID-19. Blah. I tell you, it's still a pox on our nation, and we're going to overcome it together. Oh, the bathrooms. I love how they show bathrooms now. Bathrooms are important to people. That's where you go. Sometimes it's your first and your last experience in an airport. You run off the plane, you go to the bathroom. Getting ready to go on a plane, go to the bathroom. And if they're big, you don't have to wait in line. That's even better. Terminal B in LaGuardia. Just looks so lovely. Love the floor design. Now, that's special when they, take time to design a floor. It's just easier just to pick one color and put it down and say, okay, we're done with the floor. Well, this looks very nice. And the artwork as well. They worked very hard to not make this look dungy and gritty and icky. Which for New York City is a pretty big accomplishment. And I do love this light show. I think that'd be a lot of fun. I'd love to take a picture of that. Video. I love New York. It almost makes you want to go there and stand in line. Almost. I'm not a big fan of flying. Not that I'm scared of flying, I just have a hard problem submitting myself to sitting in a steel tube for 2 or 3 hours with no leg room and no way to get out. Not that it makes me claustrophobic, I just feel like I should be doing something than just sitting. But worse than that is a car ride, because then you really are just sitting and sitting and sitting and sitting. Flying gets you there faster. And on this new website, you can check your flight status. $4 billion to build Terminal B in value. And New York City needs a lot of help, really, with transportation and buses and terminals. They're all aging, all going out of spec. Now, this is what I like to know. Where can you eat at LaGuardia Terminal B? That's my question. We'll see if there's an answer. You can shop as all here. Let's go for dining experiences, because that's my number one concern. Okay, you got Dunkin', pre-security. Well, that's good, I guess. Would they let you bring that in? If it's pre-security, maybe they don't. Maybe they make you dump it if you don't drink it because it's a liquid. That's interesting. Think Coffee is also pre. Wendy's is post-security, so that's good. That means you go through all the touching and feeling and scanning, and then you can sit down at Wendy's and have a big burger before you fly. Dos Toros Taqueria, post-security, good. Tony and Benny's Pizza Parlor, never heard of it, but post-security, good. Junior's Restaurant, I wonder if that is the Junior's Cheesecake infamy. Probably. Hill Country Barbecue, post-security, very good. Green Leafs, must be tea, I bet, maybe. Fresh Items, Grain Bowls, okay. It's a salad place. Post-security. Family Bakery, Zaro's, Mulberry Street, Spirit and Bell, the Brooklyn Diner, post-security, interesting. I'm just looking for something that says health or vegan. I guess that's the Greenleaf is our place of fortune. Got some bars, a Market Cafe, the Sweet Leaf Coffee. Sweet Leaf also has good stuff too. Oh, Shake Shack, Irving Farm, Osteria Fusco, Shake Shack, modern day roadside burger stand. Now they have some pretty good vegan burgers there. They have a vegan burger and I believe they have a mushroom burger. It almost makes me want to go to the airport today just to have lunch. But it's post-security, so I'd have to buy a ticket to somewhere and check in first. Looks like there's nice places to eat, and then services. Ooh, they have a barber spa. That's interesting. I like that. United Club, Maple Leaf Lounge, Admiral's Club. Oh, it all sounds so much fun. It's Terminal B at LaGuardia. Well, they've been talking about this for a long time. The Washington football team, formerly the Washington Redskins, and we used to live in Washington, D.C., and when Riggo was playing, John Riggins, we watched every game, and our housemates couldn't stand it. They'd say, "You've been sitting in front of the television for 3 hours. What's wrong with you?" And they were all theater people. They didn't understand football, and we were from the Midwest, Nebraska. We loved football, and we loved that we had finally moved out of the Midwest and moved to a city where we had a football team that we could root for. So we ultimately had to purchase our own. We had no money. We had to purchase our own television and put it in our bedroom so we could watch the Washington Redskins play without being annoyed and harassed by our roommates. And of course, the moment we did that, they were offended. "Oh, you spend all your time in your room watching football. You don't mingle with us anymore in the living room." It was impossible. They were a lot older than we were. And I guess they expected us to be like them instead of being who we are, like us. So then there was the big rigmarole over the Washington Redskins. They didn't want to change the name, but they should have changed the name. Finally, after years and years of pushing and pressure, they changed the name. And then they didn't know. The Red Wolves, the Red Tails, they didn't have the right domain name. It was a big hassle. So for a couple of years, they've just been known as the Washington football team. And they've just had their numbers on their helmets and their numbers on their jersey. And I honestly, really loved that. I actively love it. Because it was throwback, it was simple, it was unique. They didn't need a mascot, any dumb thing like that. They were just the Washington football team. That's a statement in itself. It separates them from every other team out there. I thought it was unique and wonderful. Well, of course, because of all of that, it didn't last. And now they are rebranding. Now, finally, they were able to get a domain name that they could own and operate and, I guess, not be held hostage for the ones that they were trying to get. And so they're now known as the Washington Commanders. Not the Washington Commandos, the Commanders, because Washington, D.C. is a military town. I don't really understand it. But here's the new logo, which I admit looks great for a W. It's well done. I don't like the rebrand, but the fact that they did rebrand and the way they did it looks good. This, I guess, is their shield. Established 1932, W Commanders. But only 3 stars, not 5 stars. That to me says loser mentality. These are their uniforms. I've always liked the colors of their uniforms, the scarlet and yellow and white, the W on the side of the helmet. Okay, it's all right. If you have to do it, do it. This is a way to do it. They've done it right. They've spent the money. I like the black helmet here and the black pants. That's new. It's a good look. Interesting. 3 colors are yellow, black, red is out, and white for these uniforms. So it'll be okay. And they're not announcing it until tomorrow, but for the past 3 weeks, everyone already knows. This is what they were trying to do. Some people wanted Washington Red Hogs. Okay, terrible. Commanders is dumb, but the logo is better. Commander is a naval rank. It's been a few centuries since arrows were used by the Navy. Very interesting. W is so boring. Could we live with the idea that maybe, but not just the logo being a letter? Great artwork, though. It's not terrible. Which for Washington is pretty That's a high compliment because they do a lot of terrible things. Daniel Snyder, the owner, has done a lot of unkind things to his fans and to, as I understand it, reading in the newspaper, to some of the people that he works with. Will all of that come out? We don't know, but we're going to find out. But probably not today. So this is how the sleuths on the internet figured out what was going on. And this was last Wednesday. They figured out the new name was the Commanders. Washington Commanders confirmed. How? The Commanders.com domain name was transferred from Namecheap to Mark Monitor, the same company that the NFL uses for all of their domain name registrations. Excuse me, as of 7:34 p.m. today, last Wednesday. And here's the evidence. Oh, see, you type Washington football hashtag on Twitter, and you get the W, the new logo. Cute. And so this is how they figured it out. They sleuthed it out. They looked up the registration for the domain name and said, okay, that's it. It's got to be. So there you go. They wanted to be, some people wanted them to be Washington Warriors. Oh, it was a big stinky thing a couple years back when they decided to get rid of Redskins and then not have another name ready. They'll always be the Washington football team to me. Well, speaking of censorship, we talked about Mouse last week and people in Tennessee going crazy. And deciding they don't want their children reading terrible things. So here's a very interesting speech by Stephen King from 1996 talking about this same old tired topic of censoring books. And here's what Stephen King said. I'll share it with you right now. Push them a little further. These are the people who want to censor. Push them a little further, and they'll invoke family values. A phrase that more and more frequently makes me feel like falling to the floor and projectile vomiting. Censorship and the suppression of reading materials is rarely about family values, and almost always about control. Who is snapping the whip? Who is saying no? And who is saying go? Censorship's bottom line is this: if the novel Christine offends me, I don't want to just make sure it's kept from my kid. I want to make sure it's kept from your kid as well. And all the kids. Christine is a novel that Stephen King wrote. A bit of intellectual arrogance, undemocratic, and as old as time, is best expressed this way: if it's bad for me and my family, it's bad for everyone's family. Yet, when books are run out of school classrooms, and even out of school libraries as a result of this idea, I'm never much disturbed. Not as a citizen, not as a writer, not even as a school teacher, which I was trained to be and used to do. What I tell the kids is, don't get mad, get even. Don't spend time waving signs or carrying petitions around the neighborhood. Instead, run, don't walk, to the nearest non-school library or to the local bookstore and get whatever it is they banned. Read what they are trying to keep out of your eyes. Read what they're trying to keep out of your brain. Because that's exactly what you need to know. That's well said. You can't say that any better than it's just said by the great Stephen King. If you don't like it, get the Haiti hay out. I'll take it. Now to another topic. Disturbing new evidence, statistics about stalking. And this is online and in person. Unfortunately, stalking is common. Nearly 1 in 3 women and about 1 in 6 men in these United States have experienced stalking in their lifetimes. Stalking starts early. Nearly 58% of female victims and nearly 49% of male victims experienced stalking before the age of 25. Some racial ethnic minority groups bear a greater burden of stalking victimization compared to others. And this is especially true of those who identify as American Indian or Alaska Native or multiracial. Excuse me. More than 15,000 women, and more than 12,000 men completed this survey between September 2016 and May 2017. The survey instrument administered represents a change in data collection from previous years. Because of changes to this survey methodology, users are discouraged from comparing current data to prior survey years. So people are watching you, people are stalking you. People today do not like to take no for an answer. And you can't politely demur, oh, I don't think we should go out, but we can be friends. That doesn't work because the people hear friend and they think, oh, relationship. I'll have a relationship with you, even though you don't want one with me, but you want to be friends, so there's still hope, right? And you turn them flat on their back, and you're cruel, and you tell them to go away, then they get angry and they want revenge. So what do? How do you handle it? How do you handle someone who has an interest in you and you are not interested in them? It's a very sticky topic, and I don't know the answer. I don't believe I've been stalked, and I don't believe I've ever been a stalker, but I have friends and family who have been on both sides of that stalking dyad, and it can be terrifying, especially when it goes to violence. I read an article some years ago that young women, high school women, who go on dates with young men, and these young men are looking for sexual interaction, and the women don't want to have sex, so they feel pressured into giving oral sex to their boyfriends, or not even friends, the guys they're going out with. And they say they do it to keep the peace, because he's not going to calm down until he gets his satisfaction. And if that means me as a woman has to take care of him, then that's what I'll do, so I can get home safely from the date. I found it outrageous and unbelievable. But many of these high school women kind of said, yeah, that's the way it is today. That's the price you pay for going out on a date. Guys expect some kind of sexual satisfaction for being in the honor of their company. And as a new 57-year-old man with the mentality of a 12-year-old, this information hitting my inbox today I found slightly alarming. As you get older, you got to up your exercise game. Now, people think as you get older, you can take it easy a little bit. Exercise is for the young. Not so fast. Those hoping to avoid one of the worst side effects of aging, bone, joint, and muscle pain that doesn't go away, might need to exercise a lot harder and more often than previously believed. According to a brand new study, fresh this morning, only high levels of activity at least once per week, playing tennis, running, swimming, digging with a spade in your garden, or doing hard physical labor as part of your job, appears to help ward off chronic musculoskeletal pain in the long term. And once a week, doing that stuff is not bad. There are a lot of people who do this every single day, which is very good. Nearly half, just over 2,400 people in the study, reported they suffered with musculoskeletal pain at the end of the 10-year study, which is really fantastic. Almost 6,000 people in the study, aged 50 or older, and they were in the study for 10 years. So this is long-term, high-quality scientific data. Chronic pain is a huge problem at any age, and one of the main causes for people calling in sick at work or visiting the doctor is one of the most widespread and complex problems in the medical community, and leads, for many who suffer with it, to a lower quality of life and poorer well-being. It's well known that pain tends to be more common as we age, so it's vital that we look at what might help prevent and reduce all pain. A lack of longitudinal studies among older adults of the risk factors for chronic pain is alarming. For many complex reasons, the solution to the problem of chronic pain in older people has been elusive. The study is the first to examine the experience of chronic pain alongside gender, BMI, how fat you are, age, and wealth over a long period of time. Are wealthy people healthier and not as painful as poor people? I think you know the answer. Aging and pain and exercise. There's a link to the study right there in chat. You can go, you can read about it. Quite a fascinating study. Long term, 10 years. A 10-year study is really something to be very, very excited about. And on that lovely, wonderful note of inspiration and hope, we'll take a very brief break and maybe do a little bit of exercising in between. Back in a moment. are back from break. I'm David Boles, here on Boles TV, BOLES.TV. And we spell that out for those watching via closed captions. Because when I say bowls, it gets translated as bowls with a W instead of bowls without a W. So if you say BOLES.TV, then it usually closed captions correctly. And we are now on, I guess you'd say, YouTube a little more frequently now, where our video demand is available on Twitch as ever, and now available on YouTube. And the YouTube video on demand is closed captioned, which is really terrific news. Wonderful, wonderful news. And it's automatic and just happens the way it's supposed to. And if you want to go check out some of our archives, you just most easily type in BOLES.LIVE, bowls.live, and you'll be right there on our YouTube channel, all ready to go, full of fun and fury. We also added a couple more commands for chat. Now here are a couple of them. The standard ones that you know are exclamation point title, and that pops up a title. You get that anytime you like. Exclamation point quote, Quote, brings you a little quote. Hey, this is what's going on. We also have a link to our Discord server. If you're interested in that, you type command Discord, and boom, here you go. Click on that link in chat, and it'll take you right to the David Boles server on Discord, and whoo, you can join us right there. Talk about a few interesting things. It's all there for you. And finally, we added, by popular request, the Magic 8 Ball, where you can ask any kind of question. Will it rain tomorrow? Will it rain tomorrow in New York City? And then you get the request. Don't count on it. That is the response from the 8 Ball. Sometimes you're behind the 8 Ball, and sometimes the 8 Ball is in front of you. So there's another new interesting study about John Henryism. And it has to do with black men and the black community. And we'll get into it a little bit, but as a kind of precursor, John Henry, if you know the folklore legend, was a black man with a hammer, and he raced a locomotive. Or maybe it was a drilling machine for a locomotive, something like that. But they were both boring into a mountaintop. There are many, many different legends of John Henry. But the one I remember as a child is he was on one side of the mountain, this machine was on the other side of the mountain, and who's going to get to the other side first? Breakthrough. And John Henry had a hammer. Sometimes he has a 10-pound hammer, sometimes it's a 12-pound hammer, depending on the story. And even though he was one man, a strong man, he broke through the mountain, beat the mechanism, killed the gears competing against him. And then he took his last breath and died. And everyone who would ride the rails from then on would remember the miracle of John Henry running beneath them. It's a very interesting story. And has many tellings and many variations of fact and fiction. And was John Henry a real person? I don't know. But the story, the poem, the song, all of them are there. They're all alive. Bruce Springsteen did a cover of John Henry and put it on one of his albums. And it's a very interesting cover, full of vim and vigor, as they say. So this John Henryism, when it comes to healthcare, suggests that black men especially take on these responsibilities of being superhuman in their lives. They ignore their health, they ignore other factors, they are determined to work and work and go and go and go until there is no end, and then they end up dying young, just like John Henry. And they have that mentality. I'm a black man. I'm fighting against the rest of the world. I will not stop. I cannot stop. I must continue for the fate and faithfulness of my family and my friends and my generation and my genealogy. I must go. And they do, and then they die. But taking a step back from that, here is one example of John Henry. And it started really as a chain gang song in the 1920s. And chain gangs had their own versions of John Henry. Some of them are very long, some of them are short. This one, I believe, is 1920 from Florida, a Florida chain gang. These were recorded by people who were watching and listening to these prisoners sing, and they were chained at the ankle to each other, and they had pickaxes or hammers or whatever they were doing, usually digging ditches is what they did. And in this particular case, when this one was recorded, they were all in the pit, a 15-foot pit. Singing this song. And there was always a leader who would call out the first line, and it's always John Henry is doing something. John Henry did this, John Henry did that, John Henry feels this, and then the rest of the guys would fill in the rest of it in the rhythm of hitting the bricks, digging the tunnel, stretching out the ditch. And in this particular case, this song was probably 4 times longer. But because of circumstance and the fact that their song leader had been released a couple of weeks before, the people who were left in the pit didn't know really the song. They didn't know the introduction of each line. John Henry did this. They didn't know. So they eventually compressed it down to one stanza that they all knew, and they would just repeat that all day long because it kept them in the rhythm of the beating of the hammer. So this is it. John Henry told the captain, Captain, give me my time. I can make more money on the A, C, and L than I can on the Georgia line. John Henry told the captain, when you go to town, the chain gang captain, usually a white guy watching them from above with guns, they were prisoners. Captain, when you go to town, bring me back a 10-pound hammer. It's gonna knock this mountain down. John Henry had a little woman, just as pretty as she could be. There's just one objection I's got to her. She want every man she see. John Henry asked his little woman, where you get those clothes and shoes so fine? Oh, I got the clothes from a railroad man, and the shoes from a man in the mines. Now, I don't know what man in the mines means, but I wonder if it's man in the mines, M-I-N-E-S. But anyway, there you go. That's the flavor, that's the inspiration, the folklore, the story of John Henry. A big, strong guy, beat a machine, but in the end, he beat himself because he pushed himself too far, just to feel superior. So here's the medical study. The legend goes that John Henry, whose job was to hammer metal rods into rock, was pitted in a race against a steam-powered drill attached to a locomotive that threatened the workers' livelihoods because the machine was faster. Against the odds, he, John Henry, won, but then died from the stress of the experience. The tale of the steel-driving man inspired songs, books, and films. In short, the John Henryism effect suggests that inequality has a hidden health impact that builds up over a lifetime. The study, involving a team of researchers from several universities across the nation, examined data collected from the National Survey of American Life of 546 African Americans and 141 Caribbean blacks, all who were older than 55. Participants were surveyed about their health concerns, such as hypertension and blood pressure. The data was compared and measured against John Henryism and discrimination. More than 85% of the participants reported using John Henryism as a strategy to cope with discrimination. However, resulting health concerns for African Americans were significantly higher than those for Caribbean blacks. For African Americans, we saw greater use of this coping strategy at high levels of discrimination, resulting in greater risk for hypertension. But it's the reverse for Caribbean blacks. This group has actually decreased risk for hypertension at higher levels of both John Henryism and discrimination. Working harder as a coping mechanism, especially when facing discrimination, could essentially backfire for Black Americans, according to the research recently published in the Journals of Gerontology. Caribbean blacks' experiences have been much different from those of the African Americans. The concept of blackness is much more stigmatized here in the U.S. than in Caribbean countries. Coined in the 1980s by renowned epidemiologist Sherman James, John Henryism is a term that describes some Black Americans' response to discrimination. Mainly that they can overcome its effects through working harder and working longer. Unfortunately, James and others found that such extraordinary ongoing exertion also leads to accumulated physiological costs, such as hypertension and high blood pressure. Here's the story. I'll put the study for you right there in chat. John Henryism study. Discrimination and hypertension among older African Americans and Caribbean blacks. The moderating effects of John Henryism. It's a great read. You'll learn a lot. Now, have you heard of Second Life? We've talked about that before here on your favorite Boles.tv live stream. Second Life is really the precursor to all of these artificial living circumstances. We talked about it that it was on The Office, right? Jim discovers that Dwight has a Second Life personality, and Dwight is a superhero and saves the world, and Jim is a guitar player who lives at home. And Pam says something, I didn't know that you liked guitar, that you had these other interests. This the real Jim, or am I with the real Jim? And Jim kind of doesn't answer her. He's like, look, it's my fantasy life. Get off my cloud. So the inventor of Second Life is stepping forward and saying, look, this metaverse that we're going to talk about briefly, this metaverse is not good for humanity, and Second Life is. So here's just a look at Second Life if you don't know anything about it. Second Life is now in its 19th year of operation. Even though it has fewer than 1 million monthly active users, it's managed to remain profitable. With more and more attention and investment being given to the metaverse concept of Facebook, it doesn't want anyone to think of it itself, Second Life, as a relic. The company has a lot of experience and patents which could be useful in creating virtual spaces that people want to visit. Will there be a Second Life in the metaverse? Probably not. Rosedale, who created Second Life, wants to focus on a product development with the aim of reshaping Second Life's version of the future metaverse. Rosedale says he fears that the mistake of Web 2.0, such as the surveillance-based advertising used by Meta Facebook, will carry over into the web's next paradigm. He says that there are better ways to make money in the metaverse. Second Life is a demonstration of a model that works. It makes lots of money per person. It has a free tier, and it makes money charging people small fees on transactions and hosting fees and land fees. Yeah, you're paying taxes on something you don't even own. Hey, it's possible to build a version of the metaverse that doesn't harm people, but actually can help with the problems we now have with divisiveness and misinformation. Rosedale spoke even more sharply about Meta Facebook's metaverse conquest in a statement last Thursday. Big tech giving away VR headsets and building a metaverse on their ad-driven behavior modification platforms is not going to create a magical single digital utopia for everyone. Virtual worlds don't need to be dystopias. And I agree with that. So what are you going to do? What kind of life are you going to have in this new, awful world that we know is the metaverse that's coming to attack us all and take us hostage? And I hope that Second Life doesn't get folded into the metaverse in some way. A universe within a universe. So you're having your Second Life in Second Life, and then in Second Life you can go in the metaverse and have your third life. It's all going to be very confusing. And if you're not a part of it, you'll probably get left behind. But it's not cheap to get into the metaverse. You have to have the goggles and the hand controls, and that's like, what, I think $600? Oculus, I think is what they call it. The price of entry is not cheap. And on that brief note, we're going to take a small break. Back in a moment. And we are back from break. I'm David Boles. Nice to see you here on Boles.tv. BOLES.TV. Here Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Always trying to make sense of the human conundrum. Trying to weave our way through the world. Find a path that makes sense to the end of joy and happiness. As an arrival, not as a fateful, terrible end. Well, you know, we've talked a lot about artificial intelligence and what's going on in this Facebook metaverse, and it's slightly concerning to me because there's so much money being poured into this metaverse. $10 billion by Facebook alone. Apple said it's getting into the metaverse. Maybe Second Life will join the metaverse to give us a third life within a second life. And it's like creating a whole new society. Elon Musk wants to inherit Mars. And Mark Zuckerberg wants to inherit all of our free time. Put us to work in the metaverse. So we can get rid of our hard scrabble lives as human beings and live as avatars forever. So let's take a look at what's going on with the money in Metaverse, because these are stories you can't escape because they're everywhere. Facebook is going to soon reveal the financial results of its early Metaverse work, and Wall Street is trying to keep expectations realistic. When the social media company reports its earnings tomorrow, it will disclose the performance of the new business for the first time. Reality Labs. That division, led by Andrew Bosworth, includes sales of Oculus headsets, around $600, and other AR, VR hardware and related software and content. It will sit alongside the company's family of apps segment, which houses the Facebook, the Instagram, the WhatsApp, and the Messenger, and generates the ad revenue that accounts for nearly all of Facebook's business. So Facebook is not really about selling you stuff, it's about selling you to advertisers. But this is nothing new. This is part of the covenant you make when you decide to give Facebook access to all aspects and periods of your life. Given the increased sale of the Oculus headset over the past holiday season, the 2021 estimate may turn out to be a bit low, which is interesting. IDC estimated that Facebook sold as many as 6.8 million VR headsets last year, which is shocking, up from an estimated 3.5 million the year before. It holds more than half of the headset market right now. Can you believe that? 6.8 million times $600 is a lot of money. Oculus has single-handedly driven growth in the market. Whew. People want to get out of their lives. That's what it tells me. So the Facebook Metaverse is this proposed new virtual world where people can live and socialize and work. Who the heck wants to work in the Metaverse? I guess you would if you were getting paid for it, but who would want to go and pretend to work after working 8 hours a day? I don't get it. Data suggests that around half of U.S. citizens fear it will be too easy for hackers to impersonate other people in the metaverse. Fair fear. I absolutely agree. Other privacy and security concerns expressed in the survey include 47% of those polled do not trust that their identity will be legally protected in the metaverse. In relation to this, 43% are concerned of not being sure of the identity of others. Now that is another great concern. So you go to this metaverse, you say, hey, Mr. McGillicuddy, it's so nice to meet you. Well, hello, young man. I'm a wealthy man with $1 million. All you have to do is give me $100 and I'll give you 1,000 back. Well, you're not Mr. McGillicuddy. You're pretending to be him. Zoom. Disconnect. It could happen. In addition to those fears, 45% of the people say they fear that the changes will lead to even more data that can be collected and used against them. Fair. How soon will it be before your real life work says, hey, I know you spend a lot of time in this metaverse. I want you to send me a log of all the times you're on and how long you're there and where you're visiting. And if you don't like it, you're fired. Because I think you're in the metaverse during work hours, and I don't like it. Following this, it was found that 41% of people think it will be hard to safeguard their real identity from their metaverse identity. Now that I understand too. Now for me, if I ever go into the metaverse, I will be me. You'll be able to track me and know that I am the same person here in the real world. But a lot of times online and in these virtual worlds, people don't want to be who they are in their real life. They want to have a different username so they can behave differently than what is expected of them. Another area of concern in the metaverse is one with payments. 37% people fear that their transactions will not be secure. And we just have been reading that Facebook's cryptocurrency, DIEM, is going capoodle. I guess it's going out of business. The bank or whatever financial entity that was in charge of Diem is retiring it and replacing it with something else. So you're not going to be able to buy your way into the metaverse with Mark Zuckerberg's Diem. It's dead. Despite these reservations, the allure of anything new in social media remains high. This is indicated by 74% of those taking part in the survey saying they will be joining or considering the metaverse. Do they know it costs them $600 to get in the door? That's what I want to know. But maybe they don't care. Maybe that's cheap to them. Despite this, and perhaps a sign of if it's new, it must be good, more than half of the survey cohort, 55%, do not know what the metaverse is. They don't know what it is, but they know they want to get into it. And only 14% said they could go into detail about how to work. So that's fascinating as well. So you have all these people, 55%, saying, yeah, I'll go into the metaverse, but I don't know what it is, I don't know how it works. Now that is a problem for Mark Zuckerberg, because he's got to educate these people on what it is, and he has to take their $600. Somehow. If you give me $600 today, I'll give you a lifetime tomorrow. As an iterative step, once the metaverse was described to respondents, 66% said they think the metaverse can replace all social media as we currently know and use it. Now that has to terrify Twitter. And who else is out there in social media? Because Facebook owns everything else. They own Instagram and Facebook, WhatsApp. I guess they don't own TikTok. YouTube, I'm sure Google's like, no. Don't go into the metaverse. Go into the Googleverse. The Wall Street bull case, which means good, for the metaverse is an expansive one. It's a bright new marketplace for retailers and consumer brands to reach a new global customer base. So don't mistake, the metaverse is not about your enjoyment or about your work. It's about tracking you and selling you stuff and things that you want to buy to make your virtual life better than your real life. The metaverse is a domain where entertainers can sell out performances, COVID or no COVID. The tech of the metaverse creates a way to bring in specialists to remotely troubleshoot glitches in big industrial equipment. or to onboard new hires. Yeah, right? Get hired at a big company. Hey, you're training, put on your Oculus, go into the metaverse and interact with all of our fake people who are pretending to be what they are not, and do your training there. And we're not paying you anything because you're in the metaverse, and it's fun. And the metaverse is a place where white-collar information workers can gather to brainstorm and pitch big ideas, including, who knows, the new next metaverse stock. Now, to me, it's going to be a huge failure of the metaverse if it's just a carbon copy of your real life. Nobody wants that. Who wants to live two miserable lives? I want my metaverse life to be where I'm a billionaire. I don't think a lot of people are going to go in the metaverse and say, I want to be born in a poor place and have no money and live on the street. The metaverse, the idea anyhow, has been floating around tech circles since Mark Zuckerberg was in grade school. In his 1992 science fiction novel Snow Crash, Neil Stephenson conjured up a kind of live-in internet technology that pervades the book's dystopian, anarcho-capitalist world. And he called that world the Metaverse. And it was essentially corporate run. Well, of course, and it will be. The conceit evoked a dark and dismal future. Still, the idea of creating a more immersive internet experience kindled the imaginations of Silicon Valley's biggest thinkers. In its full vision, the metaverse becomes the gateway to most digital experiences. The year 2021 was a watershed year for the metaverse. In the private capital markets, more than $10 billion was raised across 612 deals to feed a new crop of unicorn hopefuls in the metaverse. Even with all that money flowing around, the big "what exactly is the metaverse again?" question still hangs over the sector, generating all manner of confusion and disagreement. Oh, let's just put our money into it because it's the metaverse. Who will regulate this metaverse? Will users' data be protected in the metaverse? Will today's tech live up to the hype? Who will regulate it? Nobody. Will users' data be protected? Sure, yeah. Will today's tech live up to the hype? No. And then there's the thorniest question of all. Will this virtual land rush be nothing more than a series of walled garden metaverses dominated by a few big tech gatekeepers? I would count on that. Today's corporate-controlled internet, but on steroids. Or will there be room for an open metaverse? There are hundreds of them in development, built on the blockchain and fully interoperable, so that people's avatars can hop from world to world. Mark Zuckerberg will not allow hopping from other worlds outside of his metaverse. Open source innovators want what's behind that curtain of an open metaverse, an open internet where you can go and leap around and sing and dance and find your friends. I'm not living in this metaverse, I'm living in the metaverse on the other side of Pluto. Come and visit me. Oh, I can't, I'm locked in the Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse. It's all very scary, but that's okay. It's good we're aware of it. It's good that we know what's coming for us, because it's coming for us. Are we going to be strong enough to withstand it and maybe even fight it back? I don't know. Now, here's a very interesting article on NFTs and why NFTs are going to collapse. And I read a very interesting article the other day. somebody said, we've talked about these NFTs and how they basically, what they do is give you the right to stand next to a piece of art saying, I'm in the vicinity of this piece of art. You don't own the piece of art, you don't have the copyright to the piece of art, but you have a lease space agreement to stand next to the proximity of the art on the blockchain. That's what an NFT is. Or, as someone more crass than me put it, is you are married to your wife, let's say, and everyone in your neighborhood can go and have sex with her. And your NFT is your marriage certificate. That works too. That's a very good explanation of these NFTs. They don't give you any access or rights or responsibilities or involvement in the original art. All they do is give you a certificate saying you were here at this time and space. In its essence, an NFT is a tradable code attached to metadata, such as an image. A secure network of computers records the sale on a digital ledger or blockchain, giving the buyer proof of both authenticity and ownership. NFTs are typically paid for with the Ethereum cryptocurrency, and perhaps most importantly, stored using the Ethereum blockchain, different than the Bitcoin blockchain. By combining the desire to own art with modern technology, NFTs are the perfect asset for newly wealthy members of the Silicon Valley set and their train of acolytes in finance, entertainment, and the broader retail investor community. But, like other markets driven by exuberance, impulse purchases, and hype, the fast-moving and speculative NFT market could burn many early investors. The current frenzy invites comparisons with the Dutch tulip mania from 1634 until 1637, when some bulbs fetched extremely high prices before the exuberance dissipated and the bubble crashed. And NFTs will crash because you cannot sustain these million-dollar payouts for these NFTs that people are buying. And some people think it's a money laundering scam. You owe me money, you buy this NFT from me, you resell it for a higher amount, and then you pay me the difference. The NFT market will likely suffer a similar fate as the tulip bulb mania, but not as some think because of environmental concerns. To be sure, NFTs consume considerable amounts of energy because cryptocurrencies like Ethereum and Bitcoin are mined using networks of computers with a large carbon footprint, one that grows with every transaction. But when it comes to understanding what will bring down the NFT market, climate impact is the red herring. The real problem is that the current NFT boom is built upon a foundation of sand. Start with the problem of infinite supply. NFTs offer ownership of a digital asset, but not the right to prevent others from using its digital copies. Part of the reason why wealthy investors are prepared to pay tens of millions of dollars or more for traditional physical artworks by the likes of Rembrandt, Van Gogh, and Monet is that the numbers of masterpieces is finite. The artists are long dead and cannot produce new artwork. NFT copies, on the other hand, could become a commodity. As with all things digital, there's no difference in appearance between an original JPEG file sold for $69.3 million and a copy downloaded for free online. In theory, the supply of legally usable copies of NFTs is infinite, potentially overwhelming demand for them and causing prices to collapse. Because the blockchain is unable to store the actual underlying digital asset, someone buying an NFT is buying a link to the digital artwork, not the artwork itself. Although buyers gain copyright to the link, the transaction costs related to monitoring the infinite online venues for displaying NFTs, identifying illegitimate use, and pursuing and prosecuting infringement makes it nearly impossible to enforce the copyright or deter misuse. This strongly limits monetization of the asset. So, the blockchain is unable to store the actual underlying digital asset. So someone buying an NFT is buying a link to the digital artwork, not the artwork itself. Another risk is that NFTs are being made and sold with infant technologies, blockchains and cryptocurrencies. There are currently multiple competing standards regarding how to generate, safeguard, and distribute and certify NFTs. The resulting uncertainty as to how ownership certification will be guaranteed in perpetuity actually endangers the value of the assets and even their ownership. In fact, the value of NFTs may evaporate if the next wave of more advanced technologies that supersedes crypto or blockchain is incompatible with secure NFT ownership. Firms that deal in NFTs today may not be around tomorrow, muddying ownership claims. Well, now you've been warned. These NFTs are a big bag of nothing. And I feel for the people who are buying into that dream, because they're going to find out that they have a handful of air. Especially with how the blockchain is going to be changing. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, can they still prove ownership of what they purchased? Have you heard how a deep eye scan can prevent a heart attack? Or predict a heart attack? Oh, it's very interesting. As we've said before here on this Boles.tv live stream, the first place high blood pressure and diabetes shows in the body, presents itself, is in the back of your eye, in the teeny tiny blood vessels that are feeding your eye. And if you have a good eye doctor, you go there and say, look, I'm pre-diabetic, I'm pre-glaucomic, I have hypertension, can you just check my eyes, see if you see any damage that's done? And if they see it, that's good, because they're catching it very early and you can prevent further damage. Doctors have recognized that changes to the tiny blood vessels in the retina are indicators of broader vascular disease, including problems with the heart. In the research led by the University of Leeds, deep learning techniques were used to train the AI system to automatically read retinal scans and identify those people who, over the following year, were likely to have a heart attack. Deep learning is a complex series of algorithms that enable computers to identify patterns in data and make predictions. Writing in the journal Nature Machine Intelligence, the researchers report that the AI systems had an accuracy of between 70 and 80% and could be used as a second referral mechanism for in-depth cardiovascular investigation based on what they saw in the eye. The use of deep learning in the analysis of retinal scans could revolutionize the way patients are regularly screened for signs of heart disease. During the deep learning process, the AI systems analyzed the retinal scans and cardiac scans from more than 5,000 people. The AI system identified associations between pathology in the retina and changes in the patient's heart. Once the image patterns were learned, the AI system could estimate the size and pumping efficiency of the left ventricle, all based on looking in your eye. One of the heart's 4 chambers from retinal scans alone. An enlarged ventricle is linked with an increased risk of heart disease. With information on the estimated size of the left ventricle and its pumping efficiency combined with basic demographic data about the patient, their age and sex, the AI could then make a prediction about their risk of a heart attack over the next 12 months. Currently, details about the size and pumping efficiency of a patient's left ventricle can only be determined if they have diagnostic tests, such as echocardiography or MRIs of the heart. Those diagnostic tests can be expensive and are only available in a hospital setting, making them inaccessible for people in countries with less resourced healthcare systems or unnecessarily increasing healthcare costs and waiting times in developed countries. And rounding out this wonderful eye thing, researchers in India conducted a study among glaucoma patients and found that those who were randomly selected for the meditation group developed lower eye pressures, an improved balance of blood factors, which may then help protect from glaucoma damage, and an improved quality of life just by meditating. You can save your eyes. There were a total of 90 subjects. Half were randomized to do meditation under the guidance of a certified meditation teacher, and the other 45, they're the control subjects. Those who underwent mindfulness meditation practiced in a daily group meeting for 1 hour a day, starting at 8 a.m. for 21 days. Now that's a long time to commit to mindfulness, an hour a day. Sessions included 15 minutes of practice with a deep breathing exercise. At the end of 21 days, the eye pressure was reduced by 25% in the meditation group, whereas the control group, no change. The study also evaluated biological factors and gene expression in blood samples from the participants. Biological factors that may be detrimental to the optic nerve or eye pressure, and thus promote glaucoma. They were decreased in the meditation group but remained the same in the control group. Factors included cortisol, a steroid that our body produces in response to stress, and that could raise eye pressure. Factors that have been proposed to help maintain optic nerve health and may lower eye pressure were increased after meditation. However, these factors were unchanged in the control group. One of these positive factors was beta endorphin, our own body's pain-relieving and feel-good agent. Surveys of quality of life were also conducted in the survey. Patients who meditated had improved their survey scores, and the control group remained unchanged. Now that's news that can really help you. Exercise is good, important. Exercise gets rid of pain. We can look at the back of your eye and see if you're going to have a heart attack over the next 12 months. And if you just sit quietly and meditate appropriately for 1 hour a day, you will reduce your risk of glaucoma by 25%. Wow. It's amazing stuff. You learn something new every day. And now, we are on our next break. I will see you in a moment. we are back from break. I'm David Boles with beautiful Jana Marie. Hello. Hello. I'm yelling. And now it's that time again. In Boles.tv, live stream lore. You know it, you love it. It's time to play Not Bobby Fischer Chess with your friend and mine, David Boles. Now, as you may know, I've had a long break from chess, and I thought it would take me 3 months to get back up to speed, but what changed in the 45 years since I stopped playing daily chess was this. Computers. Oh boy, computers. Computers change the way you play chess. Computers show you how much you don't know. So 45 years ago, you thought you knew everything, and then you get here and you learn that everyone has been trained by computers, and everyone has perfect moves, and you realize you're in trouble. But that's not going to stop us from our daily practice of trying to learn new things. So this is our Chessable account. We talked about Chessable yesterday. And we are now in the training, the endgame training, for double rooks. So the idea is you're going to use your rooks to create a checkmate. And we're going to be playing black. And these are timed, so I feel a lot of pressure. Whereas when we do the chess.com daily puzzle together, we have all day to sit and look at it and try to figure out what not to do. So usually these puzzles involve sacrificing your queen. So we are black to play, and we're going after the king, the white king over here. And here are our rooks, here and here, so we know they're very important to this gameplay. And they like an immediate check, which makes it very difficult. So if I sacrifice my queen here, the king will take, and then I can check. All right, I'll try that because I'm running out of time. I know they love a queen sacrifice. That was the right move, see? I would never do that in the real world. But I guess that's what they're trying to teach me is stop thinking about always protecting your queen, sacrifice your queen, and then play with your freaking rooks. So now I'm thinking this here, which will put the king in check. And the king can't go that away because of this away. So, I'll give it a try. And our bishop protects here and here, so the king can't go there. So this is it. This is the 2-move win. Thank you very much. Woohoo! Hot darn. 2 moves, 100% accuracy. Very simple puzzle. But we did it together. Okay, we did another one. This one is 3 moves. I am black again. Here is the king, and here are my rooks. So we know the rook is important. And here is the evil queen. Now we know they love a queen sacrifice. I do not love a queen sacrifice because I always feel at a great disadvantage. But if it wins the game, then you should sacrifice your queen. So if I go here, if I put my queen there, then the pawn will take her, and then we got a straight line to a checkmate. So, okay, I'll do. I will sacrifice. And then I have this rook to go here, to remove that rook. king will have to take. No, the king can't take because I have this rook here. So the king can't take. So the king is going to move here. And then I move the second rook there. And I win the game. Okay, that's what's going on. So move it. Do it to it. Do it to it, bro. And then we move this here. As they say in France, checkmate. We're doing well. We're doing better than we did yesterday on our own. Sometimes I get very nervous when we're on the live stream because these are timed and I can't explain myself very well. Here we go again, black to play. We're going after this white king here. And here's our rook and here's our rook. So we know they're very important. They want to be part of the checkmate. And here's our beautiful queen that they love to sacrifice. So I think that's what's going to happen. Is our queen's going to take the knight. This rook will take our queen. And then we'll probably go here, I think. Which will end the game as we know it. I guess we could try. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, so that's take. So I think the move has to be here. And then this rook will take here. Now this is getting a little fuzzy for me. If I go here and here, the rook just takes. If I go here, it's not this way. Okay, see, this is what helps when I talk it out with you because I understand what I'm doing wrong. So I have to go here to here to put the king in check because we have to keep this file aligned. And I'm running out of time, so I have to make the move. And then we just move this rook over here in the same file because the rook protects the rook. Puts the king in the Czechoslovakian line. And we have won the puzzle. So this is going to be 3 puzzles in a row that we get 100% playing black, which for me is a phenomenon. And really out of spec for who I am as a human being. But I'm always ready to grow and find new experiences. And I don't mind winning. Go for the win, young man. And that is the game. I can't believe it. I did not do well on these rook-rook things yesterday, but maybe it's because I didn't realize they were double rooks had to work together. I knew the rook was involved, but I didn't know they had to be double rooks. So now that you know that going in, double rooks, well, then you have an expectation that you set. So that was fun, playing a little chess. I already played the chess.com daily puzzle, and I don't think they let you play it twice in one day. And I did okay on that, surprisingly so. Well, we've had a lovely chat today about health and eyes and heart attacks in the Metaverse. Ways to prevent glaucoma. We talked about John Henryism. That was the theme for the day. Be careful of the mechanics around you and don't challenge them too hard or you'll be enveloped by the Metaverse or the steam drill locomotive will kill John Henry. If you have any questions, topics you'd like covered, conversations you'd like to have, feel free to email me, david@boles.tv. If you're interested in asking Jana Marie a question about American Sign Language or disability, you can email her, jana@boles.tv. And this week, I believe Jana Marie's going to be here at 10 a.m. on Friday instead of 10:15 a.m. on Friday because she has a little bit of a commitment she has to do a little bit later in the day. You can find us on Facebook, BOLES, on Twitter, @DavidBoles, Instagram is Boles Books, our Discord server is David Boles, and you can go right here, right now. Click on that link in chat. Boom. And you go right to our server, join it, and have a chat there. On TikTok, we are Boles TV. YouTube, we are Boles Blues. However, I've made it much easier than typing youtube.com/Boles Blues and going there to our site if you want to look at our video on demand. You simply type in boles.live and boom, you're right there on our YouTube page. So if you have any questions, get in touch. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful day, a terrific evening, you sleep well, and you wake up with joy in your eyes and a song in your soul. Take care. I will see you tomorrow.